Welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. At the beginning of the program, I talked to you about we just cover the gamut here. Cultural landscape. We'll talk about merry-go-rounds. We'll talk about carousels. Whatever information you need to be a fully informed American citizen, we bring that to you. But not only do that, we do dedications on this program. And I want to dedicate this next little clip to my bride of coming up on 37 years. Debbie, this goes out to you with all my love.
He hits it high. He hits it deep. It is out of here. And we are going home.
That's the bottom of the 10th inning walk-off home run, Pablo Sandoval for the San Francisco Giants last week. I just know how much Debbie loves those home run calls, so I'm just doing it for her. All right, 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Let's grab a couple of phone calls. Let's go to Dennis in Jacksonville, Texas. Dennis, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Yes, Mr. Brown, I listen to y'all every day, and I'm just wondering, you know, Obama brought all our troops home from Afghanistan, and, you know, to take control of a country, you would have to have troops and police, you know, and plus all the shells being bought up. You can't find nothing around here to shoot out of a gun hardly.
So so Dennis, are you thinking that maybe part of Obama's reason for bringing the troops home is he thinks he's going to need them here?
Yes, sir, I do. I believe martial law is coming.
Well, you know, I think you probably got a lot of company out there thinking that. I mean, to me, you know, and I appreciate the call, Dennis. You know, I think it's, you know, you look at these Department of Homeland Security showing up at local Tea Party events. I mean, here in our Tea Party event, we've got a very, very capable local law enforcement. Now, our sheriff, terrific law enforcement guy. We have all the law enforcement personnel we need. So if you think there's going to be unrest or whatever, I got no problem with having police there to make sure that's their job, keep people from beating up on each other. So you got a Tea Party event and you think there are going to be some radical left-wing extremist fringe protesters out there, they're going to start throwing things at the Tea Party folks, then it's fine to have police out there. But Department of Homeland Security, they sent a guy 90 miles. They sent a guy 90 miles from Memphis to come here, armed. He was strapped. He was packing to monitor a Tea Party event in a town of 36 or 40,000 people. Yeah, Dennis is out there saying, hey, you know, I think martial law is coming, and you might think that's extreme, but then I look at this. I look at Department of Homeland Security, 1.6 billion rounds of hollow point ammo, which they cannot use in warfare. That can only be used on our own citizens. They got 2,717 light armored tanks. And you start asking yourself the question, well, where exactly do they expect to use these tanks? Who exactly are they expecting to shoot these bullets at? The only possible use would be on American citizens. And that's what starts to get, you know, just a little bit spooky, if you ask me. Let's go to Gene, Carthage, Texas. Gene, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Got to turn my radio down.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, Friday night I was listening to my Representative Gomart answering questions to your host on every issue that you've been bringing up, the IRS, this fast gun thing, the terrorist that's getting a civilian trial and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
When your host asked him each time, well, what's the problem? Why can't we get something done? Each time Mr. Gomart said, District of Columbia. We need to, I have told Mr. Gomart, and I can't believe he didn't say it at the end of his conversation, but we've got to repeal Article 23 done by Eisenhower and his crowd.
Now,
it gave District of Columbia electors, okay?
Well, now they...
It's got to be repealed, and it can be done easily. It's not difficult. All we have to do is get the states together, have a vote to repeal it, send it up there to Washington, D.C. They've got to repeal it.
Well, now, but Gene, the District of Columbia, they have no representatives or senators. They can vote in the presidential election, and I think they have one or two electoral votes. So taking their electors away is not going to do a whole lot to change the political landscape.
Yes, it would. We have got to repeal that. They have no right to it. They have no right to electors at all.
Well, and constitutionally, you're exactly right. Thank you, Gene. I appreciate that. The idea behind the founders setting aside some property for the District of Columbia for the seat of the nation's capital was that it would be apolitical, and that would just be part of the deal. It was just there to provide the home for the seat of a government. They wouldn't have voting privileges, wouldn't have voting rights. I think probably if there's anything we need to repeal, it would be to repeal the act that established the IRS or repeal the 16th Amendment. I mean, I think that 16th Amendment is a travesty from Jump Street. I mean, that's the one. If you want to find one thing that explains the level of debt and taxation that we have, it's the 16th Amendment. That was a horrible, horrible amendment. And I've talked to you about it before. It was passed as a soak the rich. The rich aren't paying their fair share. Let's ding them. Let's pass the 16th Amendment and go after all of their profits. It was never intended to be a tax on wages and salary. I mean, that was specifically excluded in their thinking because there's no way they're going to sell that to the American people if it's going to raise their taxes on their salaries and their wages, because that wasn't the whole idea. The idea was to go after these corporate profits of these the rich people and their wealth income. It was a tax on wealth, their dividend income, and their profit on their corporations. That's what it's supposed to be, a soak the rich deal. And, of course, quickly it became a soak everybody deal, and that's where we are. And I think we ought to think seriously about going to a straight flat tax. I mean, the fair tax, I'm okay with the fair tax idea. I just prefer a flat tax, let's say 10% or whatever. A lot of the countries in the former Soviet Union went to a flat tax. A lot of people don't know that. Places like Latvia and Estonia and some of those other places, they went to a straight flat tax when the USSR broke up, and it's worked for them. It's worked like a charm. And so, I say just have a flat 10% tax or something, whatever the figure is. But let's say just 10% because that worked for God. No reason it can't work for us. And it's just 10% of whatever your income is. That's it. No deductions, no nothing. Here's your income, 10%, send it in, do it on a postcard. And that would be fair. Everybody would be paying exactly the same rate. Everybody would have some skin in the game. Everybody would be a contributor, and it would work. So that's one thing we got to do is just get rid of this monstrosity called the IRS. Well, let's go to Tim in Little Rock, Arkansas. Tim, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Brian.
Howdy.
First time caller.
Hey, great. Well, thanks for listening and thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
I want to talk about the Boy Scout decision.
Yes, sir.
Somebody was showing me in the newspaper the day after that, Little Rock newspaper, United Methodist Church pastor, and his comment was it was a non-issue for the church.
Yeah. Well, and we've had, local Methodist churches here in our area. I mean, the Methodist church has been gone on the issue of homosexuality officially. Not every Methodist church. You got a lot of conservative Methodist pastors out there, even in the United Methodist denomination, that are continuing to speak the truth and declare the truth. But right now they are outnumbered by a church hierarchy that is sold out to the homosexual movement. So there are going to be a lot of Methodist churches are going to be fine with this. The Mormon churches are fine with this. That's a mind-boggler to me. And I talked a little bit about what I think may be going on there. But yeah, you do have some wholesale abdications from principle on the part of the Mormon church and the part of a lot of churches in the United Methodist. So, all right, Tim, go ahead.
Yep, spiritual wickedness in high places.
Yeah, that's what we got. All right, Tim, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Let's go to John, Davenport, Iowa. John, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Oh, did you call me?
Yes. Yeah, you're
okay,
on, John. You're on.
Okay,
Go right ahead.
Thanks very much. One quick comment on the last subject. I don't like gay marriage because they want to adopt children. I don't want to see that. That's the worst part of it.
Exactly
Anyway.
right. In fact, I think, John, that ought to be our number one objection to same-sex marriage. There are a lot of there's a host of reasons to be against it. But we ought to be against it because of the damage that same-sex parenting does to kids. This is about kids. Yep. Marriage ultimately is about the optimal nurturing environment for children. That's the only reason we need. If that's the only reason we had, that would be enough to fight gay marriage. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, I'm driving a truck. I'm going to shift gears here.
All right.
I'm going to bring in Gettysburg Address as how it applies to Christianity. It's a line of reasoning.
All right.
I'll
Shoot.
See what you think. Lincoln went to Gettysburg to commemorate and dedicate a portion of the battlefield for the people that fought there. That's why he went. And he said in the address, he said, it is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Now, there's no way you can disagree with that. It's absolutely not only fitting and proper, it's altogether fitting and proper. The next thing he says is, but in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power. Now, so that's twice he says, in a larger sense and far above our poor power. But yet you can't change your mind about the first one. The first one says we can, and the second one says we can't, and you have to agree with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
How does that apply to Christianity? They say Christ died for your sins. But in a larger sense, in a better sense, it's his life that saved you because he brought a message from God. He personifies the message. You can look at Jesus, you can look at the message, and you can look at God. And if you align yourself with the wisdom, then you will be in a state of being saved. So his death doesn't do anything.
All right, well, listen, that's an interesting angle on that, John. I have to process that a little bit in my head, but I appreciate very much the call. Interesting parallel there between the sacrifice of Christ and the sacrifice of soldiers who laid down their lives on the battlefield. And, of course, Jesus was the one who said, speaking of Memorial Day, greater love has no man than this, than that he laid down his life for his friends. That's what we remembered yesterday on Memorial Day, that ultimate sacrifice, and of course the pattern for that, the ultimate model for that, Jesus Christ himself. Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back after the news. Stay with us.